Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll take a look at the hurricane that is the Kolink Observatory HF Mesh ARGB in white. As you can see here, fully lit up. This is actually a very mad case. It comes included with 6 addressable RGB fans, 3 140s at the front, and 3 120s, 2 of which are in the top, 1 in the rear. All of this, really nice case, also with a swing out glass door at £52.99, currently at overclockers.co.uk. Links will be in the video description. But is this going to be the right case for you? There are some pros and cons, so we're going to go through today, do a little bit of a kind of case tour, see what it's all about, and then you can make up your mind whether or not it's suitable for you. Now we'll start off with the dimensions of this case, looking at 450mm in height, looking at just over 200mm in width, and including the extrusion at the back, we're looking at 410mm deep. In terms of what it can actually hold, if you're looking at standard air cooling, it will take air tower coolers up to 160mm in height. When it's coming to graphics cards, you can fit one in here up to 330mm in length. And when it comes to the power supply, you can install one up to 180mm. But if you do want a bigger one, you can remove the drive tray, which is in the basement section, to install a larger power supply should you need to. So I think the first thing we should address is the noise of this case. Now, it does come with these fans included. They're pretty good. They're addressable RGB. You can connect them to your motherboard or you can control them from the case. So there is a button on the top here. You can cycle through the various color options. If you press and hold the reset button, which has been repurposed, you can switch it to motherboard mode. We don't have a motherboard installed in here at the moment, so obviously it's just off. And of course, if you do want just the lighting to be off, you can do that by pressing and holding the button. There's various different colors, statics, etc., which you can choose from. There's a nice bright white, yellows, blues, pinks, etc., and of course unicorn puke as well. But for me, the real downside of this particular chassis is the fact that the fans are a constant speed. So currently they're running just off a power supply. There's no control over them, no PWM signal, no voltage signal. They just spin at their speeds, and that's kind of it, which for some people might be a little bit annoying. Let me take off the front panel and you can actually hear what the difference is like with the fans running. Actually, front panel, mesh there, so filtration, yeah, pretty decent deal, quite easy to remove as well. Which then exposes the 3 140mm fans. This is huge. It really is. You don't often have 3 140mm fans on a case, especially one as compact as this. I'll be quiet now so you can hear what the fan noise is like over the ambient noise in the room, which, to be fair, is pretty quiet anyway. They're moving a lot of air, but at the same time, they are making a little bit of a noise. So let me stop these fans, crudely. Now listen to the noise profile. Much, much better. These 140mm fans do spin at a slightly high rate, in my opinion. Some people are going to be absolutely fine with it, not bothered whatsoever, but I did want to point out at the very start of this video that the fans are a static RPM, and potentially you may not appreciate the noise. So if you like the look of this and you think, oh, that's really good, do bear in mind the fans, you cannot control the speed of them whatsoever. So this is basically it. Now it does change in the profile when you open the side panel and things like that, static pressure, etc. Taking the magnetic filter off the top, it does seem to change the noise profile ever so slightly. So you may find it absolutely workable, and if you've got this PC maybe down on the floor or just slightly away from you, you probably won't notice it at all. But if you've got it on a desk, it's pretty close to you, it might get a little bit annoying. Okay, so now I've turned the fans off so we can have a look inside and I won't get my fingers trapped in anything. So as you can see, front mesh panel, again, easy to remove. That just pops off in its entirety, nice and easy for cleaning. This plastic surround here does come off as well. There's a grab handle on the bottom, so you can just pull that off if you need to. Realistically, you probably won't need to unless you're maybe taking the fans out because they are screwed in from the front. So to gain access to the 2 at the bottom here underneath this, you will need to remove this plastic trim. Again, you can do that if you want to, it's pretty easy to do. Yeah, again, 3 140mm fans up front is pretty insane. There's not many cases that do that. In fact, one of the only other ones that I can think of is their other Kolink case, which was the Citadel, the full-size version, the Citadel ATX, and also the Series 500, which I've got behind me. It's a completely different price point altogether. Anyway, let's move on. So go around to the side panel. So you have got a nice hinged side glass panel. There is a little bit of a trim around the outside edge as well, so greasy fingerprints, etc. can be hidden by that. There is some protective coating on there. The glass itself is completely clear, so that's kind of nice. I like to see clear glass on white cases. I think it looks very nice. So that's hinged. You can take the glass door off if you want to in its entirety, just lift up off the hinges. I'm going to leave it on for now. Inside, plenty of room, other than the fact that you cannot mount a radiator in the top section. Even if you remove those fans and put a radiator in, unless it's a super slim radiator and ridiculously slim fans, you might get away with it, but that is probably going to be very expensive to achieve. Unfortunately, it's a little bit low, so where the actual motherboard is going to be in there, there isn't enough room for clearance. So radiator wise, the only options you have, you can put a 120mm AIO on the back. You can put a 360mm AIO in the front pretty easily. There's a big gap there at the front, so if you want to do that, you can do. You could probably do it actually and still keep those fans on the front and put a 240mm AIO and the fans in there like a push-pull setup. If you wanted to, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, I don't know. Full mesh on the bottom there, hexagonal mesh. Also, there are screw mounting holes as well. So you can, if you want to, repurpose the fans from the top. 120s, you can put those on the bottom to push air in towards your graphics card, should you wish to. Supports micro ATX, ATX, IATX, all that kind of stuff. So no issues there. When it comes to like the fans themselves, they're all daisy chained together. So unfortunately, you can't really just take off a few of them. Well, you can do, but then the others will be completely useless because the actual kind of control element of it, which is a SATA power, is actually connected to the last one in the chain. So if you remove any, you can't have kind of two separate sets, unfortunately. But anyway, let's move on. So interior wise, absolutely great. The standoffs are actually mounted in there for the ATX form factor straight away. You've also got 3 pass-throughs at the bottom, so HD audio over this side normally, USB here, and front panel connections there, so nice and easy to wire things. For the top section, the EPS pass-through is a little bit on the tight side because we do have that slightly more compact nature of this case, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. PCI Express mounting plates, or blanking plates, they are captive unfortunately, so they're going to have to be bent in order to remove them, which is a little bit of a shame, but with budget cases these days, that kind of is the way things are going. So let's close that up and we'll take a look at the back. So at the back, normal layout, you've got a thumb screw there, which you can undo. That is how you get access to the screws for your PCI Express cards. Yeah, it's absolutely standard deal. You've got space for a 120mm at the top here, standard IO, no sharp edges or anything, which is always nice to see. At the bottom, you can see I've crudely got a power supply in here. This does fit ATX power supplies, normal layout there. There's filters and stuff on the bottom as well. Moving to the top section, so we do have this removable magnetic filter. Nice and easy to do. 2 fans pre-installed, as we said already. So this is the Kolink ARGB 120s. When it comes to I/O, not the most elaborate, but it gets the job done. So we've got a power button, reset switch, which is currently repurposed to actually act as a color change mechanism to the addressable RGB fans. We've got USB 2.0, combo mic and headset jack, another USB 2.0, and a single solitary USB 3.0. Looking at the bottom, pretty standard deal. So you've got relatively low feet on here. There's foam pads on there to stop marks. You've also got a couple of screws at the bottom, so undo those 2 screws and you can remove the drive cage, which we'll take a look at shortly. There's also a mesh filter over the power supply section. So yeah, pretty much standard deal. And that's the grab handle at the front if you want to remove that plastic trim piece. Taking off the back panel does reveal somewhat of a spaghetti junction of cabling, unfortunately. Like I said, the cables are all daisy chains, so they are all interlinked and they've all got pass-throughs, which does kind of simplify things a little bit. There is a SATA power connection, so that is how the fans get all of their power for both the fan RPMs and also for the addressable RGB. Those are all daisy chained on a kind of JST connector, just a 4-pin. It is custom, so you're not going to be able to do anything with that. There's no ability to change fan speeds, etc. At the top, there is a pass-through. So we do have a 3-pin 5V addressable RGB and also a VDG connector for some gigabyte boards. You can plug that into your motherboard. That is, there is an extension there, so you can route that to pretty much wherever you want to. It is a little bit messy, I'll give you that. You're probably thinking, oh my god, how am I going to manage it? Actually, it's not too bad at all. It's probably less wiring for those 6 fans than what you'd have normally, because if you had 6 fans, which were PWM, ARGB, you'd have 12 wires at least to manage, whereas with this, it's kind of like a power lead addressable RGB lead if you want to use it. Up here, the reset switch is going into this, so this can be repurposed. If you don't want to use the addressable RGB lighting, you maybe consider just stripping it out. Using the case with some other fans altogether, you can do, and then you can regain your reset switch. If you do want to use the fans included, that needs to be connected so you can switch between the different styles. Moving this stuff out of the way, you can see there's plenty of tie down points, all that kind of stuff. You've got space here for two 2.5-inch drives, which can be mounted on this panel. Hard disk drives, SSDs, whichever, entirely up to you. At the bottom, you've got room for another two 3.5-inch drives, or you can put a 3.5-inch drive on the bottom, a 2.5 on the top. So 3 2.5s, 1 3.5. That caddy can be moved backwards, so if you are installing some kind of water cooling in here, you can undo the 2 screws, move that bracket, and it goes back about 1 inch, although that is then going to slightly interfere with your power supply, so just make sure your power supply isn't too big and all that kind of stuff. No rubber mountings for the power supply or anything like that. It's a pretty basic affair here. There is, on the other side, a window so you can see what power supply you've got. If you're doing a more budget build, you might want to put some white Fablon or plastic over there just to hide the brand in, should you need to. But otherwise in here, no real major concerns. There's a reasonable amount of depth, not a huge amount, probably about 20-25 mil at best. So you will probably need to get a power supply with flat cabling. Some of the Corsair cables, which are braided and bunched, you might struggle to get the back panel on, but if you go with flat cables, you should be absolutely fine. I should also mention it does come with all the usual stuff, so you get a user manual to tell you where all the screws go and how to put it all together. You do also get the screws and some cable ties as well to aid the cable management, which you possibly will need for all of that addressable RGB shenanigans that is going on in the back there. So overall, what do I think about this case? I'm slightly confused. Well, not confused, I'm in a very grey area with this one. Now at $52.99, considering what is available on the market right now, it's actually a pretty decent choice if you want the fans. If you don't want the fans, it would have been really, really nice to have seen Kolink do this actual setup and do the case maybe a little bit cheaper. So £53 with the fans. How much are 6 fans worth? Maybe they could have got this down to, I don't know, £35-40 just as a case alone, which I think actually would have been a slightly more compelling buy. And certainly for some of the enthusiasts out there who really like the look of this case and they really like what it can do, but they do want to add their own touch of flair to it with their own fans, or maybe just have some completely standard stock fans like white ones or black ones, no color whatsoever. I think having the option would have been a nice thing to do. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't think they will. Currently, this observatory case has gone through somewhat of a transformation from when it first came out, probably about 5-6 years ago. And we actually reviewed the observatory way back in the day when we first started out the channel. It was really popular, and this case continues to be really popular. And they just keep on tweaking it. So there are versions of the observatory HF with mesh, with glass, all kinds of things. So maybe if you don't quite like the mesh and maybe you want some glass, then head over to the links in the video description. You can see the various options available. Big shout out to Kolink and also to overclockers.co.uk for sending this one over for review. Very much appreciated, and we will be doing a build in this very soon. If you want to see how that goes, click on the subscribe button and the chime notification and you'll be notified of future video releases. I think that's going to pretty much wrap this one up. In terms of value, I don't think you can go too far wrong. The fans themselves may not be to everyone's liking, but certainly if you're building a PC in this, a flip PC possibly, it is going to grab some attention with all that lighting. So that wraps things up. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.